All right. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Zophar here. I went from peddling emulators on Zophar's domain to speedrunning virtual Hydlide. I don't know where I went wrong in life, but this is where I'm at. No, I'm just kidding. I actually love this series. The cool thing about virtual Hydlide, if you've never seen this before, like a lot of people talk about all the problems it has, and I promise you we're going to talk about them all as we go through this run, but this was one of the early randomizers. The back of the box famously proclaims billions of combinations, specifically over 40 billion different combinations, where it shuffles around all the items and what the levels look like, the dungeon maps, all that stuff is all just shuffled around. So you get a lot of different worlds at 3 frames a second. And it's the only speedrun where if you save a frame, you save like 5 minutes. So everybody wins. So let me tell you just real quick about what the speedrun is going to look like before we start here. This is what we call an any percent run, which basically means go through the game as fast as you can, complete as many dungeons as you wanted to get you to the end. So far, what we've learned about the speedrun is you can skip the first 3 dungeons. You don't have to do them at all and start from dungeon 4. You can also go in any order until you get to the volcano, and after that you have to go in a certain order because the item you find in one is required for the next, all the way to the end of the game. We're playing the Japanese version specifically because although the US version would be in English and I don't know Japanese, the Japanese version has a really interesting mechanic that we call death heal. We're going to talk about that in just a second. So I have preloaded in the seed, which is right here. I use a mnemonic, shaking my head at ChatGPT because Mech is the big bad. It's the only way I can remember the password. My memory sucks. I know I'm a speedrunner. You would think like that's terrible, but I can't remember anything. So I use mnemonics for all of it. So that's my mnemonic for that. So as soon as I start the seed here, I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. But we found, thanks to Mechalink and SearSky, that we've been working on this game for a long time, they were able to come up with a strategy that totally changed the way that this game is played, and it allows you to skip all 3 of the first dungeons. Prior to this find, you still would generally go to the graveyard, because in this game you don't level up from experience, you level up from beating dungeons or beating quests. It's really a different kind of game. So without any further ado, let's get started here. We're going to begin virtual Hydlide. When you see me starting the game here, don't adjust your monitors or your television screens. You really will be getting this game at 3 frames a second in all of its beautiful pixelated glory. So here we go. Virtual Hydlide any percent run, go. So you'll notice that Jim runs like he had a little bit of bad food and is a little bit constipated. We've never figured out why that is, just that it is. I feel bad for him sometimes. What's a Hydlide? We don't know. That's the beauty of it, No Diggity. We don't actually know what a Hydlide is. This game actually takes place in a land called Fairyland, not in Hydlide. In fact, there is no Hydlide. So nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's the most beautiful thing that nobody can figure out where it actually is. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit this... Oh, dear. Oops. Well, welcome to SEGATHON. We're going to start over. That was not supposed to happen. Welcome to the joy of virtual Hydlide. So when you go to that area, you're supposed to hit the tree that actually has the fairies in it. If you hit the wrong tree, you wind up taking a hit from the bees. Exactly, yep. Credo and Culinary get it. Yeah, this is my first time. So we're going to try that again. You actually can heal from death in this game, but not that early. So let's go again. Attempt number 2. Let's see here. Let's get out of this. And let's adjust back. And figure out where we went wrong. Alright. So I can already tell you that the first mistake that we made was we didn't hit the approach right. So let's go see if I can adjust. I want to say this guy? Nope. Oh my word. Alright, try number 3. 3rd time's a charm. Wow, that's terrible. You see that Gamers Uplink used a Zophar fail voodoo doll. Yeah, something like that. All right, third time's the charm. This is for realsies now. Here we go. This time I promise you I'm going to hit the right tree. Okay. Probably. So virtual Hydlide. The joy of this is that when you're trying to hit the right area, if you go a little bit off course, which is what happened here, I went a little bit too far this way when we started, it basically breaks everything. And you wind up in a situation where it's really hard to recover if you don't know which tree it is. So we're going to try again. And the key here is that if you go in a northeastern direction from the very beginning, slightly offset on the compass in the lower right, you're supposed to hit the wall of trees. And then once you do that, all you have to do is just slightly adjust to hit the tree that's in the very first column, not that tree, on the left-hand side, one underneath. If you don't do that, though, you wind up completely offset wrong. So I'm going to check the map a couple times just to make sure we're still in the right area, which we are. There's the trees. Now we go for the third tree back and we'll hit it. See? And that's what you're supposed to do. All right. Well, that was a fun little start. So this is one of those quests I was telling you all about. In order to beat the game, you have to have 3 fairies, because the idea is that the princess was split up into 3 fairies. Nobody really knows what her name is. It calls her Princess Lena in the intro, but she's called something completely different in the manual, so we'll just call her the princess. And evil Veralis split her into 3 fairies for reasons. Nobody really knows why. So, you know, your job as Jim the Knight is to save the princess. Now, you'll see me going into the map a lot in this run. That's to make sure that I'm on the right track. I honestly should have done that when I was trying to find the bees, but the more you go into the map, the slower that it is. So you generally don't want to go into the map too much. So we're going over here to find the herb garden. So this is a safety that we always take. Technically speaking, do you have to do this? No, but you're going to have a really bad time if you don't have a way to heal yourself when things go wrong. And as you see, things go wrong. All right, so now we're going to go to the trap door, like so, and we're going to get a sword that Mecha and Searsky found that changed this whole game. There it is. The way it changed the game is that up until this point, oh my word, up until this point, there was a lot of boss RNG when you would fight the dragon, which we'll get to in a little bit when we go to the volcano. And, you know, a lot of it was just how fast the dragon would come to you. And you didn't really have a lot of control over how fast that happened. This sword allows you to hurt the dragon from afar. So the entire RNG portion of the dragon fight is completely eliminated from the game. In addition, because it's so strong, you don't have to worry about getting that graveyard level that we're totally skipping, because the sword is so strong that it doesn't matter that you're not leveled. You can crush enemies very easily with this sword this early in the game. A lot of people didn't know this sword existed. I certainly didn't know. Mecha knew of its existence, but had never found it in the wild. In other words, he could see that the sword existed in code, but couldn't actually see like where you know, you would actually obtain it from. And he found on the maps that there are 2 trap doors in every map, and they could contain this, you know, this sword, this sword of lightning, or storm sword, as it were. So now we're in the first dungeon, which is really the 4th dungeon. This is called the Ruins. And what we're looking for in here is we're looking for the Flame Amulet. And the reason you need that is because there is a dungeon we're going to be going to right after this, the volcano. If you don't have it, you will die pretty close to instantly when you walk in there. Like any of the red spots on the map you hit, you'll just die. Now, that becomes important later. Now, we're going to grab this item. That's a very important item. That's a Stone of Fighter. You want that because it allows your Storm Sword to shoot 3 projectiles instead of 1. And when you get the Sword of Light later, it'll allow it to shoot 3 projectiles. So your strength essentially will double and or triple depending on, you know, how good you are at aiming at the enemy and being in the right angle. So No Diggity wants to snap into a Slim Jim. Ooh, yeah. And Melpo, you are correct. It is Princess Anne is the other one. So it's either Princess Lena or Princess Anne. Nobody really knows for sure. Now, you would think, okay, we got the flame amulet, we're good to go. But no, there's one more item pickup that you really have to have if you want to get through this quickly. And that is a fairy tears, which is right around here. There it is. Now, once we grab that, we're going to go right in here. And out we go. Fairy Tears takes us back to the beginning, and then we just run out, just like that. So now we're going to be going to the volcano. Normally we get there 2 minutes and 30 seconds-ish earlier than we are going to be, due to my awful botch of the bees at the beginning of the run, which never, ever happens that way, but sometimes it does. So what you got to do is we got to go around the ruins first, and then we're going to start heading towards the volcano. So we want to do one of these, and then one of these. Make sure we're lined up, that bridge right there, and then we're going to just run at the bridge. Once we're past the bridges, we'll be on a direct course to the volcano. So we want to be lined up here, and go over that bridge right there. Oh, thank you, Grimsons. I appreciate that. I got a nice collection of gaming shirts, but you know, this is SEGATHON, so I was like, you know, I gotta wear my Streets of Rage shirt, which I love, by the way. Streets of Rage 1 is actually, believe it or not, my favorite. Most prefer 2. 2's great, but 1 is the first one I ever played back in 91. I actually played it for the, early 92, I should say. I played it for the Sega CD when I was 12 in that collection that it came with, the 4-in-1. And I just loved the game so much, and the soundtrack is just so freaking awesome. So Jim continues to run like he's about to poop his pants, and, you know, we feel bad about that. You really don't want to run into those treants. They can do very bad things to you, so, you know, back up and avoid them. And we're going to look for, you see the spot on the map, that little yellow square? We're looking for that. That's the volcano. So when you're in the map a lot, you do lose time if you're constantly in it. But when you're in the map, the game runs at 60 frames a second as opposed to the 3 frames a second that it's running at right now. So you actually, if you do the right number of map views, generally when you're making like a large turn, it's faster to go in the map and turn the arrow and then come out of the map than to try to turn when the game is doing bum. Now, very important thing to remember in the volcano is that we have to equip the flame amulet. If you don't equip the flame amulet, you're going to die real fast. So we're going to go right in the menu. We're going to put that on. We're also going to equip that sword. Now, this is a tricky area to do because number one, you're in darkness other than the flamey areas, and then number two, there's a clip, and this guy's about to whack me and I'm not going to be able to avoid it. Yep, there it is. Oh my god, and he critted me. Wow, this is really going off the rails here. So you want to kind of attack the wall from this point to clip through it, and if you do it right, it will look more like this. Nope, not like that. More like this. You just kind of attack the wall like this. There it goes. And you clip right through it. As other runners have said, you know, walls in virtual Hydlide are more like suggestions or guidelines than actual rules. So if you didn't clip through that, you'd have to go around the long way. It's a lot slower. I usually can hit that clip pretty reliably. Now, we're in a situation where we could die before we get to the dragon based on that crit that we took, and that's why you take the herb safeties. So it's very likely we'll die, and I'm going to show you if that happens. If we should die before we kill the dragon, we'll talk about the first thing that the Japanese version does that the US version doesn't, which is Death Heal. Death Heal is something that allows you to... See, we just died. So the good news is, in the Japanese version, you can do this. As long as you do it within 3 seconds of death, instead of getting a game over screen, you will come back to life. The US version, once you die, you're dead. That's all there is to it. Now, you got to put on the Stone of Fighter here, so we're not going to want to move for this fight, because if we move around, we could hit a red spot and be in trouble and have a bad time. So you see here in the past, when you would fight this dragon, he could not be hurt until he comes close to you, because the Flame Sword, which is a sword that has projectiles too, he's invulnerable to it. Kind of a tease. They give you a sword in this dungeon that he can't be hurt by. It's very virtual Hydlide. But in the past, see how I'm hitting him real close? You would have had to wait for him to come up to even hurt him. But now, you don't have to do any of that. you can just start thwacking him from afar. Now, he's going to drop us the item that we need for the next dungeon, which is the Flute of Zaldis. And you're probably wondering, okay, Zophar, well, how do you get out of this volcano now? And this is the other thing about the Japanese version and the US version. In the Japanese version, when you die, you lose all your points. But in the US version, whoops, didn't mean to do that. In the US version, when you die, you keep your points. Now, the way that this run always used to work, so this is a death warp, or that's what we call this. In the US version, you would death warp in order to keep your points and buy things at the shop with no penalty. And so my strategy before Mecha devised, his, was to do that in the volcano and not worry about losing your points to buy items, because the US version would let you keep them. So you're saying, Zophar, why are you doing this in the Japanese version where your points are going to drop to 0 and you won't be able to buy anything? And the reason is very simple. Because in this run, you don't buy anything. You don't buy a thing. And why don't you buy a thing? Because the items you would normally buy, things to warp you out, things to allow you to attack with projectiles like the Stone of Fighter and the Tears, you don't need to buy any of that stuff, because you find the ultimate sword, you find the warp items that you need. Everything is just on the map, and it just makes it so convenient. So you don't need to buy a thing. And you don't even need to buy healing because of the herb garden that's right near the sword. Again, all of this was months and months of research of MechaLink and SeerSky, dissecting the game's code, creating a utility that parsed billions of those maps. And this was the end result, was what we believe to be probably the ultimate optimal seed in Virtual Hydlide. So we're going to use the Flute of Zaldis here, and that's what's going to allow us to open sesame. It's virtual. Feels almost like playing Hydlide in real life. Exactly. We're going to be hosting Hydlide Fest 2025. Everybody plays Virtual Hydlide but Zophar. Play the Japanese version, by the way, if you want to be fast. Do this route. It's amazing. Mecha and SeerSky did such a freaking great job on it. So here we go. The walls look more like suggestion than walls, yeah. Now, we're going to pick up another safety right here. This is a shield. The only real reason to pick it up is for the Viralis fight, which is the final fight. A lot of streamers, speedrunners that run this game don't bother with that. That, by the way, is a mimic. You do not want to touch that mimic. Bad things will happen. Trust me, don't touch the chests in here. They're all bad. There's no real chests in this area that you want. So we're looking for those little black holes in the map. Those are elevators down. I mean, yeah, typical Virtual Hydlide fashion. Black holes are good. Paralysis is bad, okay? So we take that shield because it's on the way. You literally only lose a couple of seconds if you do it right, and it can stop you from having a really bad time with Viralis' ultimate attack, which is where he fires a beam at you, a series of yellow beams, and if you don't block them, you will die, especially at the low level. Oh my god, don't hit me, don't hit me, he hit me. You... bad suit of armor. But that'll happen. So the reason why you want to get that shield is specifically to not die to Viralis. You don't have to have it, and in fact, in Frankster's run, Frankster's is one of the 8 category world record holders. I hold 7 of them, and he holds 1. He actually doesn't pick up the shield at all, or the suit of armor, which we'll get later. Jim did not want to get in that roller coaster. Now you can sing the Hydlide theme music here, pretending it's Indiana Jones. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, anyways. If you love Saturn games this quad, I should check out the speedrun of Grimshins and Baroque. Ooh, I'll have to add that to my listy list. Yeah, Toonami Demon hit the nail on the head. If you touch a mimic, you're gonna have a bad time. So down we go, down we go. We're about 4 minutes off of the world record that I set a few months back. The vast majority of the time loss was the ferry section, but, you know. Oh dear. You don't want to really get hit a lot in here, because even though the mage is not that difficult with this sword, he's really not, the challenge is there is I believe, I'm not 100% on the number, I think it's around a 50% chance that you're going to get poisoned right before the mage. Like, there's a spot where you can get poisoned. I'm going to try to avoid it, but there's no guarantee that I will. I could hit it anyway in a different spot. But before we do that, we're going to want an item very important in here. Oh, Jesus Christ, they are really, like, aggressive today. We're looking for there it is. That's a Tears. That'll allow us to warp out of here after we defeat the mage. And they say, well, Zophar, why don't you just death warp? Well, the problem with death warping out of here is that there's not an easy one like in the volcano. In the volcano, you just step back into the flame and you die, right? Because you have no flame amulet at that point. But in here, you'd have to die to these aggressive statues. And what I've learned about these aggressive suits of armor are that they only seem to attack you when you don't want to be attacked, like right now. If I need to die to them, they'll just ignore me. That's the joy of virtual Hydlide. So we need those tears. They're important. That's why we picked them up. Now, one thing I'm probably going to do, because we're just getting absolutely wrecked by these enemies, and that happens sometimes. And there's the poison. Yep. So we're going to go and we're going to get rid of the poison and heal ourselves. You see these little blue areas here? So you go in one of them, and it's a spring of healing. And not only does it heal you, but it also gets rid of poison, like that. You lose about 10 seconds doing that, but trust me, if we didn't do that, we're going to have a really bad time with the mage, and then the whole run becomes in jeopardy. Now, the problem is we're now in the last level of the sealed dungeon, and that could happen again after we pass all of the points of pulls. And then it's a race against time for the mage. So I think I know where it usually is, so I'm going to try to avoid it, which is a little slower, but understand I could still end up hitting poison on the other side. But I'm going to try to avoid it. For no other reason that as fun as it would be to have a race against the clock with the mage, and we're still going to get the race against the clock, my lord. All right, well, you're in for an interesting fight, because now we are poisoned with no way to get rid of it, and the mage is right up here. So, here it goes. I tried to avoid it, and I hit it anyway. That's going to happen. That happens about half the time. Mr. Edgar Friendly, don't you have a job to do? Isn't there a thought in that barbaric brain of yours? Oh, here we go. Exactly. All right, well, the mage is very easy to beat if you pay attention, but sometimes he doesn't cooperate and goes out of bounds. So I actually devised a strategy that I call the gamer's downlink, where you walk into him and then go back, and if you do this properly, he drops more often. If you get unlucky, like right now, he'll just go through the walls. Here we go. All you gotta do is make sure you have the Stone of Fighter on, which of course we didn't. There we go. And then you'll get 2 hits instead of 1. So you kind of walk into him to get him to reset, and then you stay back. You don't want to get too close, because if you get too close to him for too long, he'll go right back up. So you want to do it just like that, and then come right back out. And if you do it right, he'll drop. Yeah, like that, see? And you go up to him, and then you immediately fall back. And you keep doing that, and he'll drop a lot faster than he would if you just kind of wait. All right, that was a little bit sloppy, but he dropped. Do the same thing here, and just kind of watch him. Yeah, he's getting erratic. The Japanese version is a little bit strange. Oh boy, I don't know where he is. Oh, that's bad. He's in the walls. Oh dear. Yeah, he's giving me... I got a bad mage. This sometimes happens. When this happens, you just gotta wait. He's literally in the walls right now. Now, it's very likely we're gonna die here, but that's okay. We've got safeties. And we're gonna heal it right now. We don't have a lot of safeties, but we got safeties. So we really got to get him to drop now. So let's get up here. Come on, evil mage. Oh my god. There we are. One more and I got him. Just need him to drop one more time. He got... Oh, nope, not quite. He was starting to. He faked me out. But yeah, we got him. It's over. All right. So that is the challenge of the mage when you're poisoned, is you got a good chance of dying at least once on him. So now we're going to pick up the next item that we need, which is going to be the Tears of the Earth. We're going to need that for the graveyard area, the gravestone area, rather. And I'll show you what you do here. So we're going to use the tears to get out. Go right here. And you're going to run, we're going to run right to the gravestone, which is going to resurrect the lost castle. Because you want to get in that castle and fight some eels, which is always fun. The gravestone. What's up, Rage for Kiwi and everybody? All right, so here we go. We're gonna run right to the gravestone. All right, and then we're gonna use the Tears of the Earth if we're lined up properly. There we go. And we're gonna go in here. Now, here's the thing with this area. There is a lot of nonsense going on in here with mimics. It's completely random. We could end up getting a ton of skeletons and mimics that block my way and end up making me fearful, which means I lose control of the controller and can't do anything that I need to do to beat this. That could happen, and we don't have any safety to get out of that situation to unfear ourselves. So it's really important that I take my time when we get to that section, and if I see a lot of them, I'm gonna have to make a decision on whether I think I can get around them or if I should fight through them. And it really depends on how many and where they're standing. You're gonna see I go in the map a lot once we get into the inner core of the Lost Castle. Now, there's a safety back here, past this point, right there. I always pick this up. A lot of runners don't, but I pick it up because even though it loses 10 seconds, you are so much better off having this armor on than not having it on. Especially when you're this under-leveled, because remember, you only get levels in this game when you beat quests, and we skipped 3 of them. So by this point, we're incredibly under-leveled. It says we have 600 life. You really should have, I think, 900 life by this point. So we're, definitely in tough shape from what the game expects you to be. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get the Sword of Light. I'm going to wait for that square to come back, because unfortunately I missed the platform. There it is. Okay, now I got to make a decision here. There's a mimic. See that chest? That's not an actual chest. That's a mimic. There's a skeleton. I think I can outrun it. Okay. Now I'm going to very carefully navigate down to where I believe the sword is, which should be right here. And we're very close to it. Where's the sword? Where is the sword? Right there. Okay. Just line ourselves up, pick the sword up. There it is. We're going to put the sword on. Very important we have this, because this is going to save our life potentially if we end up getting mimicked. So yeah, we're at the most dangerous part of the game right now. There's 2 really tough areas. This is one of them. The other one is when you're fighting the Viralis vampire, which we'll talk about when we get there. So now we just wait for a block to come that we can get on. At least my burlap sack is silver now, exactly. Alright, now we're going to try to get ourselves up here. So to do that, I'm going to jump on these platforms, and we're trying to get to right there. Let's see what gets me there. That's that block right there. So I'm looking at the block in the corner, and I'm eyeing it up, and I'm trying to get on that. There it is. That will get us right lined up. Now, I got to make another decision here. Can I outrun it? I'm going to try to. This is hard. I might have made a bad decision. Oh, wait. See how I'm using the map to make my turns? You get it? Okay. Down we are. That was the toughest part right there. That's usually where I get tripped up in this run, is usually that first platform. That's usually where the worst of the mimics are, but they can be anywhere. They can continue to get us. Like, they could get us over here if they really wanted to. So now we're going to look for the next block, which is this guy here. And then we're going to line ourselves up to go down here. And that should be this block right here. Yep. That's going to take us all the way to the back row. Then we're going to get on the block on the left, and we got it. Bob's your uncle, as they say. All right, now, you got to be careful here. There's going to be a lot of BS, a lot of skeletons. Yep, that's bad. That's very bad. Very, very bad. We're definitely made a mistake right there. I probably should have stepped back, but I didn't. Took a little bit of life loss. Not the end of the world, but when we're running out of safety herbs, not great. So we just got to be careful. Now I'm going to very carefully go in here. All right, now we're going to fight the eel. And I know Diggity says you can say this with ambitious game, but you don't know you can even say it. Yeah, they had ideas. I don't think they really implemented most of them well at all. But they definitely, it's a fun game when you just play it for like funsies and for randomness. Like, I enjoy it, but it's got a lot of problems. So the eel, because we are not great on safeties right now, I think I only have 2 safeties left. I'm not going to take a lot of chances with the eel. I'm going to run a lot. So it's going to slow the fight down probably by up to about a minute, but it'll make sure that we're okay if the vampire decides to be really difficult. So we'll take 2 hits there, we'll run around, Sometimes I try to take a third swipe at the eel, but it doesn't always work out. Ooh, real close. This is a good one. 1, 2. I'm going to take a chance here. I'm taking a chance. Come on, will it pay off? It did not. Well, maybe it paid off. I'll kill him on the next hit. It probably paid off. We'll say it paid off. Yeah, we got him. So, we're now entering the final part of the game, which is what we call the boss gauntlet. If it ran at triple the frame rate, it'd look good. So, interestingly, Grimshins, if you play this on an emulator like RetroArch, which the Beetle Saturn core, it's a good core, but it doesn't properly, like it overclocks the graphics card on the Saturn. It runs it faster than it's supposed to. You can actually go through the game faster. That's why on speedrun.com, there's an emulator category that we created for this, because the game runs faster on most emulators. And so it wouldn't be fair to compare it against real hardware, which is what I'm on right now. I'm using an actual Saturn. So now we're at the boss gauntlet. And we're gonna do what we can here to not have a bad time. I think we have 2 herbs left. We have our shield safety in case Veralis decides to do his thing. And so we're gonna try our best to not get killed here. We're probably gonna, my estimate is gonna be, I know I said 30 minutes. This is probably gonna be closer to 31 minutes. But we should, as long as the vampire cooperates, we should be okay. You'll know he's not cooperating if he just starts warping around within seconds. So right now, this is a good start. This is a very good start. I don't think he's going to warp around on us. He's starting to warp around on us. All right. When that happens, get as far away from him as you can. Find out where he went. You do not want to get hit by the bats. You want to find him, and you want to stay away from him. And the reason why is because what will happen with those bats is they can paralyze you. And if you're paralyzed, man, it's a good game. GG, good try. Because I've had that happen where I've actually lost an entire run on the vampire because they paralyze you and then you try to heal from death, and as soon as you get up, they swarm you and you just keep dying until you're out of safeties. Well, that was the most difficult RNG part of the game right there. So we're past that now. So really all we have to do is just stay focused, and we should have this in about 31 and change. Again, we're going to try the gamer's downlink strategy here. It's not as important at this point because we have the Sword of Light, so we can kill this guy a lot faster than the Storm Sword could. So we'll just kind of go in and out like that, and give him a second to drop. He should drop very shortly. There he goes. Yep, and we'll do the same thing. In, out, and down he goes. Like that. And you just rinse, lather, and repeat until he drops. There he goes. Ooh, he actually took a shot at me. That wasn't intentional. Took a shot. He hit me with his best shot. Stomping a mud hole in me. The vampire loves to do that. Mage not usually. Alright, well that fight went, other than when he took that one shot at me, that fight went pretty well. So now it's the final boss. It's Veralis. I have about 30 minutes and 20 seconds on my end. Although I might have that off a little bit. I'm counting when I got crushed by the bees. That counts as time for me. But exactly, Melpo. But yeah, I mean, this is Veralis. So if you get lucky with RNG, he never moves. If you get unlucky, you'll crit him way too early. Crit makes him more likely to move. And then when he starts warping around, it's not a good time. So let's see what happens. We want him to stay where he is. We don't want to crit. We critted. He's moving. All right, well, now the fight gets interesting. That will happen. I'm going to put my shield on now. We have a safety. We're going to use it. Alright, so now we just got to be very careful. And when he does if he does his ultimate attack, I'll tell you when it is. So you can see, I'll put my shield up at it. None of these are his ultimate attacks, so I don't think he's going to do it. Yeah, that's it. That's time. And that is Virtual Hydlide for the Sega Saturn. The key with this game is 2 things if you're going to run this. Number 1, you have to pay attention to your direction. If you're even a little off, like you saw me at the beginning of the game with the fairy, very difficult to recover because of the way this game works and how everything kind of looks like you're in front of it, but not in front of it. Like it's kind of here, but it's not. It's, 2D, 3D hybrid type of game. where there's 2D pixels in a 3D plane. So you want to make sure you're lined up properly when you're trying to go to certain areas. The same thing that you saw happen to me on the ferry could have happened when we went to get the sword. If you're just a little bit off and you overshoot it, it's really hard to get realigned and find where you're going, which is why ultimately after 2 failed ferry attempts, I reset the game to get my bearings back. That's the first thing. The second thing with this game is you just have to practice the boss fights. If we had not taken those 5 herbs, like if I hadn't taken those safeties, we would have gotten absolutely annihilated on that first incident in the volcano when we died, and we would have had to start the volcano over, and that would have been a massive time loss, even worse than the ferry situation. But yeah, that's Virtual Hydlide for the Sega Saturn. Highly recommend, with all of its problems and frame rates and 3 frames a second and Jim looking like he has a poop stain on. It really is a fun game. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Like you saw, you can beat it in half an hour or less. My world record is 24 minutes and change on it when you do everything right. US version is fun for casual. If you want to do serious any % speedrunning, recommend the Japanese version so that you can do the death heal. Death heal is a really, really helpful feature for learning how to beat the bosses quickly. So that is Virtual Hydlide. We have saved the princess. She is no longer split into 3 fairies. Veralis has been defeated. Congratulations. This story is happy end. And that does it. And there's also a part after this where if you scored high enough, you end up in a leaderboard. Now, we're not going to be on this leaderboard, obviously, because we lost all of our points midway through the game. But it'll count your score up and tell you how you did. So, see, it counts your time, how many monsters you killed, what level did you play at. We play this generally on easy. No miss clears if you never die. Obviously, we did. And then you get your total number of points. And it'll rank you on a scale of 1 to 10. We didn't hit anywhere on that. You never will in a speedrun once you've played this game enough, because the goal is not to get the most points. The goal is to get through as fast as you can. But that's Virtual Hydlide. I hope you all had fun. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to come and check out, I did announce that we were retiring from my any % runs of this. I want to focus more, in the future on random runs and stuff. But if you want to check me out, twitch.tv/Zophar1. And I'm on YouTube also at youtube.com/@Zophar1. And that's all I got. So thank you, everybody. Have a good one, and